Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video here at tablemon. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to be playing with Reklev's undefeated European International Champion Decklist. Of course, it's good old Charizard EX with Pidgeot EX, but a few extra support Pokemon joined the cast in Bibarel and Cleffa. I think Cleffa is a magnificent addition to this deck. It goes really well with Buddy-Buddy Poffin. You can actually search for it. Of course, you need the energy to retreat into it, which is easier said than done because there's only 6 in the list. So it's not going to be super common, but it's a nice extra little bit of consistency that allows you to sometimes even draw more cards than Rotom V. So Cleffa, a very smart addition that we actually saw plenty of times being used on stream by not only Tord, but many other players. And then Tord's answer to the expected onslaught of control decks and Snorlax decks, which got better because of EUIC, was the package of double Professor Turo along with Team Yell's Cheer. Now, Professor Turo scenario, of course, allows you to pick up a Pokemon, which then prevents it from getting stuck. You don't have switching cards, but between that and Prime Catcher, you are able to make sure that nothing gets stuck in the active for a long time. You're also able to passively heal things such as your Pidgeot, your Charizards, Rotom, Lumineon. You can use those and then pick them up if you have a sort of free turn to prevent your opponent from getting those easy prizes and sometimes take away one of their win conditions, which is pretty fantastic. And then you have the Team Yell's Cheer, which in this instance is better than Palpad because Palpad can be discarded by both EUIC and Misfortune Sisters, but Team Yell's Cheer can only be discarded by something like Luxray V. So the addition of Team Yell's Cheer as opposed to Palpad is very cool and was probably very important in many games, especially if Tord went up against any sort of Snorlax decks. Now, the Prime Catcher was the A-spec of choice. Maximum Belt has definitely been what you would come to expect from Charizard EX. William Aceveto's top 4 deck list had Maximum Belt in it over Prime Catcher, but Prime Catcher ended up being enough for Reklev to take down the whole tournament. Now, in order to compensate a little bit for the lack of Maximum Belt, Tord was playing a copy of Defiance Band, which allowed him to do that little bit of extra damage in case he went down in prizes against Giratina, against Chien-Pao decks, of course. So I think Tord almost had a cover for pretty much every deck. No text for the mirror, of course. No double TM devolution, such as we saw from William Acevedo, but he did have that little bit of extra protection with the Bibarel, and also had the Charmeleon, right, as well, to try to protect from TM Devo. It doesn't always work out, and in the one game where he needed it, it was priced at the very top, so that was also kind of difficult for him, but in the end, he was able to work his way around and just win with outright consistency and very good decision making. And yeah, those are the peculiarities of Tord Reklev's deck. Very cool to see. Lower count of Nest Ball as well is important to highlight, as that we were seeing like 3 Nest Ball, 4 Buddy Poffin, 4 Ultra Ball. Tord just decided to take out the Battle VIP passes, put in 4 Poffins, take out the Level Ball, put in a Nest Ball, and then just add more support to the Pokemon. But clearly it worked, so how about we see it in action in a couple of games. Let's jump into them. If you want to support the channel, you can use code tablemon to get 5% off at Potent Store for your online codes, 10% off for your sealed product at Flipside Gaming, and 10% off on your aluminum accessories at TC Evolutions. Or if you're looking to buy singles or sleeves, you can fill up your cart and close the tab, then click on the affiliate link in the description and check out. That way you can support the channel over at TCG Player, Card Market, and Dragon Shield. ¿Eres de México y necesitas cartas de Pokémon? Busca Hyperbeam Cards en Facebook e Instagram. Y si estás en Tijuana, búscalos en el local C27 en el Centro Comercial Otay. Alright, so let's get this game going. Our opponent did choose to go first. Our hand is decent, yet questionable. Like an Ultra Ball for Fish, which is nice. Alright, we're up against an Arceus V-Star deck. Quite possibly, and very likely against Arceus Giratina. However, it's actually Arceus Regidrago. Alright, so benching a lot of easier targets is not going to be ideal here for us. Losing that energy is also not great. All right, I do have the fish. I think I might have to resort to Cleffa. In this instance, I do have the energy. I did prize a Super Odd. No energies prized, however, so that's good. All right, I'm definitely gonna go for Lumineon. Gonna go grab an Arven. Most certainly. And that will get me the Poffin and the Force Seal Stone, probably for a second Poffin. And then we shall be able to set up almost completely, right? I'll have Cleffa, Charmander, Pidgey, and Bidoof. And then I'll be able to draw 5 cards if I decide to attach the Choice Belt, which kind of feel like I should, maybe. And this is where Cleffa is a genuine lifesaver and a very smart inclusion overall. I'm debating the Bidoof. I feel like a third Charmander is probably a little better. I could also go double Pidgey, but I really don't want to be left with only one Charmander. So I'm going to go Pidgey Charmander in this instance. I'm going to go ahead and attach Retreat. And then I'm going to attach the Choice Belt not only to draw an extra card, but to also make it more enticing for my opponent to go after that Charmander. And Cleffa giving us Rare Candy Charizard. Not much else, however. Best case scenario, my opponent doesn't evolve the Regidrago V-Star, and I mean into Regidrago V-Star, and then I can go Rare Candy Charizard, KO that Regidrago for 2 prizes, whilst I tank an attack from the Arceus V-Star. I definitely would not mind that. You have to assume that since Regidrago uses grass energy, they will be using Iron Leaves as well, so that's something very important to take note. We could also see just a Judge plus V-Star here, and then take away our hand. That would actually really suck, and I reckon that's probably their best play. However, they might be concerned about setting up and like discarding evolutions other than the Goodra, I guess. Okay, so they have Vulpix as well, and they just go for the Trinity Nova. So they have a card, right, that they haven't played in their hand. The Alolan Vulpix is most certainly, especially now that it's powered up, a much bigger threat to Charizard. So I'm just gonna go after that. No questions asked. I don't need the Charmander with Choice Belt to accomplish that, however, so I'm gonna do it with a normal Charizard EX. Another Rare Candy top decked, don't mind that at all. I have Counter Catcher, Pulse, and Prime Catcher, so I have all the gusting in the world. I should use Counter Catcher this time around, just to make sure I have the other resources which I can use at any moment available to me. And then we're just gonna eliminate the Vulpix V-Star. We are going to bench our Bidoof, which gives us the maximum amount of possibilities between our top deck and our prizes to just establish something else on the board to help us draw another Rare Candy, a not so useful Team Yell's Cheer. Best case scenario now, we either get Iono'd or Judged. Honestly, I would not mind that. I also wouldn't mind, well, actually, never mind. I wouldn't mind if my opponent just benches another Vulpix and doesn't attack my hand, because then I could go boss, target it down. Because I didn't evolve into the Choice Belted Charizard, now I can't. I'm gonna go after the Regidrago V-Star. I'm guessing the other card they grabbed off of the Starbirth was the Professor Turo, because they're trying to do this cute, you can't attack me play. But here I'm just gonna go boss, KO the Vulpix again. Don't mind if I do. Absolutely don't mind if I do. Getting another 2 prizes. Obviously my field is very bare bones at this point. We'll need an Ultra Ball top deck. Alright, Bibarel actually really helps fix that situation. So now we're just gonna go Vulpix. I'm guessing I'm getting Iono here, and that's where Bibarel will really help out. If I don't get Iono, I have another 2 prizes here that I'm getting, plus my top deck to get out of this situation. Finally a Pidgeot and a backup Charizard, so now I pretty much have everything I need. If my opponent doesn't attack my hand, I have a game in hand by just knocking out the Arceus V-Star. After my opponent knocks out my Charizard, I also have Prime Catcher to knock out the Regidrago V. Even if it becomes a V-Star, I can reach for that 300 damage thanks to Choice Build. And there's the Professor's Research, so wow, my opponent is playing everything in his deck, or in their deck, sorry. Giratina, Regidrago, Vulpix, Kudra. I mean, you assume Kudra is to attack with Regidrago, but then they could have Giratina V-Star. Maybe not because of the energy, so that's just there for Shred, because there's no more Duraludon VMAX in the format, but this is 100% game over. Altaria and Altaria EX. This Altaria 110, and your opponent's active Pokemon now asleep, and during Pokemon checkup they flip 2 coins. And then Altaria EX 140, and during your opponent's next turn prevent all effects of attacks used by your opponent's Pokemon done to this Pokemon. So interesting choice of attacks. Unfortunately, you can't use them all. Sometimes you need to reduce damage and prevent effects of attacks. However, this is 100% game. I have exactly 2 energies in the deck. I also have the Charizard straight up with the Prime Catcher. I didn't even need to promote the Pidgey, that's my bad. So that was unnecessary. All I needed to do was Rare Candy Charizard in order to win the game, but I guess it's faster to just play Prime Catcher at this point than to go Rare Candy Pidgeot and retreat, trying to get the points before my opponent concedes. Unfortunately, it does not happen. But yeah, straightforward game. Questionable decisions by my opponent. I think Vulpix plus Judge would have been a much stronger choice than Vulpix plus Professor Turo scenario when I have 7 cards left in the deck. I mean, when I have 7 cards in my hand, right? But that's on them. On to the next one. Alright, so our opponent wins the coin flip. We'll see what they decide, whether first or second. I will end up going first, and I think that's fair. Very few decks want to go second, or first rather, in this day and age. Now, with this start, I'm 1 V-Star away from fully setting up. I'm up against a potential Lost Box deck, and there I have the Ultra Ball. Very nice top deck, so that should allow me to set up quite nicely. I think setting up, I chose to start Charmander. Setting up double Charmander and then Ultra Ball what? I could grab Charmander Pidgey and then Ultra Ball the Charizard and the Pidgey, as I do have the Soup Rod, and get a Rotom, draw 3 extra cards, and have the Force Heal Stone available. I actually kind of really like that as a way to set up and really maximize the chances. I have the 2 other Charizards available. There's also merit to discarding the Counter Catcher, as with a Charizard in hand, that's 1 less resource I need next turn in order to set up, and I basically have guaranteed Charizard. So I'm gonna change my mind. I'm gonna give up on the Counter Catcher, even though it could set up a nice play if my opponent ends up attacking with Cramorant this time around, right? And to target down a possible Giratina, which is a possibility that I'm up against. This case scenario, they just don't attack me with Cramorant, and I'm able to go Rare Candy, Charizard, or Charmeleon, and go from there. Didn't get the best 3 cards off of the Rotom, but that's completely fine. We're decently set up. We're in a solid spot. I think we are good to go here. Alright, so my opponent starts off with a Buddy-Buddy Poffin from hand. Definitely just as powerful right now as a Battle VIP pass if it's Turbo Lost Box. If it's Giratina, perhaps you'd rather have double Comfey, one Tina, one Greninja in play at this point in time, but we'll see. You know, it's definitely not Sablezard or any sort of Sablezard variant based on the Radiant Greninja, of course. Can't have two Radiants in your deck. See a rescue board. In exchange for a switch card, we see a Colress. So I wonder if the decision was between Colress and switch card, as it took a little bit too much time, or if my opponent just already had the Colress and they chose to Flower Select first, which in my opinion, and I'm pretty sure in most people's opinions, would be the wrong choice. Now, another switching card gone, and a Nest Ball, which is super valuable to find the right attackers. We see an Iron Bundle, which pretty much confirms this is a more Turbo Lost Box based deck rather than Giratina. The Lightning Energy all but confirms this will include Iron Hands at the very least, perhaps Raikou. So no surprises there. As we see another Buddy-Buddy Poffin, and this is the underwhelming part for Buddy-Buddy Poffin, right? And what I think is a mistake for my opponent. You're thinning a card, yes, but now you're stuck with basically 4 Comfey on the bench. Very little room to have like 2 attackers possibly, so not ideal. Also, if you expect your opponent, I mean, it's fine if you expect your opponent to knock you out. If that Buddy-Buddy Poffin had been Battle VIP Pass, as it used to be, then that might have been a Cramorant, and we might have seen a knockout this turn. So both cards are fantastic, of course. Battle VIP Pass has now rotated, but there is merit to that top deck's actually pretty good. There is merit to having Battle VIP Pass was a really good card, is what I'm trying to say. That's all I'm trying to say. Battle VIP Pass was a pretty darn fantastic card. All right. I think I'm just gonna grab the candy directly. I don't need Defiance Band, and Choice Belt is not available. And if I get the Arven here to thin an extra card, I'm also taking away the Arven resource, which allows me to have a stronger setup in terms of, a stronger amount of a higher amount of top decks, right? Top decking Arven could mean Arven for Ultra Ball to then fully set up, right? Not gonna use up the boss's orders. My opponent is down 3 switching cards. Maybe it is worth it. It's just I would hate it if they bench something and I wasn't able to target it down. Usually that won't happen though, so you know what? I'm gonna target down the resource that they have, right? This is the most valuable resource, you could argue. Greninja is also, it's more valuable than that, as you can't really get maximum value out of 4 Comfeys. But getting rid of the rescue board is going to help quite a bit in making sure that opponent struggles a little bit to get attacks like connected, if you will, right? However, thinking about it more, all right, if I eliminate Greninja, then there's very little threat to my bench, and I remove this potential extra draw for them. So perhaps I might end up regretting this if my opponent just goes Moonlight Shuriken. Is it Moonlight Shuriken? Yeah, Moonlight Shuriken this turn to knock out Charmeleon and Pidgey. So thinking about it more, probably should have gone after the Greninja, honestly. Haven't seen a Colress. This will be the 7th card. We see an Iono in Lost Box, which is not very common. Usually I advise the people I coach is like always very freely play down or keep the cards in your hand, because you know you're not going to get Iono'd against Tina, against Lost Box. However, there's always that one person who wants to go against the norm and ends up playing Iono. Especially in Turo Lost Box, it's not common. In Tina, you can expect one sometimes, maybe, right? So if you're gonna play around an Iono, you probably have to do it more against Tina than against Turbo Lost Box. But here we are with our opponent showing us that they do play Iono as well. No Colress being played so far. No Moonlight Shuriken, thankfully. So in hindsight, should have just eliminated the Greninja, right? No questions asked. And my opponent with a very underwhelming turn just ends up passing. Now, I could Lost Vacuum away the rescue board again. Evolving here is pretty nice because I'm able to just get the energies going. And now I'm no longer weak to Moonlight Shuriken at all. I kind of do want to remove the rescue board. Clearly my opponent is sort of struggling to like do anything really. And I do have the Super Rod in hand, so I am going to get rid of it. It helps add to their Lost Zone, of course, gets them closer to 10, but I really don't fear Sableye at all here. At this point, it's not very relevant. Gets them 1 prize card. Like, it sets up 3 prizes over the course of 2 turns. If they use it twice, which is not horrible. Now that I have Professor Turo, I could actually pick up the Rotom to prevent even that situation. So I'm not doing much, but I have 2 Charizards set up. I'm taking a prize card every turn, and I haven't even seen any dark energy from my opponent to potentially fear Roaring Moon. You have to assume, like, there has to be an answer. You know, you always need a direct answer to Charizard, but I'm even protected against TM Devo, at least for now. It'll be very telling if my opponent goes 9 damage counters on, or 5 on 7, right? 5 on Pidgey, 7 on Charizard. Then that would immediately scream TM Devo. There we finally confirm the Roaring Moon presence, which makes sense. Only 1 Colress for my opponent so far is certainly on the unlucky side of things. Now that they're down to 18 cards, they haven't Lost Zoned a Colress either, so definitely running under odds. And there we finally see the Colress, so we're gonna see, probably they found it off of Comfey. So now they're at 10. We'll see what they have in store for us. Could be that they end up using Roaring Moon, but the lower the prizes I have, the less good it is for them to use Roaring Moon. However, I only have 2 threats, right? That's the big issue. I don't have any sort of viable way to establish another threat, and that is a problem. Failed Buddy-Buddy Poffin just too thin. We're gonna see the Mirage Gate, all right. So we're gonna lead with the Sableye play here. Energy to the active, right? Making sure they use up resources. I've removed both rescue boards. And now we're gonna see the Lost Mine finally. What's gonna happen here? Lost Mine. I think the Pidgey is definitely going down. Yep. They really want to get like on the board in terms of prize cards. And then they just go after the Rotom. So Professor Turo off the prizes is certainly going to be very, very useful. Can't top deck Arven or Rare Candy anymore to really have like a good solid setup. I do get Iono, which is certainly tempting, but I think I'm gonna Professor Turo first. I don't want my opponent to get the easy prize card. I will rebench it, however. Or will I? No, I'm not going to. So, assuming there's a Roaring Moon coming and my opponent gets to 3 prize cards, that'll be the perfect time to Iono, right? Iono them to 3 and take a knockout with my Charizard, and then they need to establish another Roaring Moon immediately the turn after off of 3 cards. And that requires a Mirage Gate, a way to retreat, a Dark Energy, or 2 Mirage Gates, right? Plus recovering the Roaring Moon, plus finding it as well, so we'll see. Yeah, we shall see what ends up happening. There's the Roaring Moon immediately, and that's why holding off on the Iono, even though my opponent had, how many was it? Like 14 cards in their hand until this turn, was great, right? Because Iono 2-4 might not have been like super powerful, and for me, like in terms of finding stuff, and I bring them down to 5, then they have their top deck, so it's a little bit better for them overall. But this next Iono is going to be much, much stronger. Hopefully it makes them use up way more resources. And I still have a chance. If I just find the Radiant Charizard, I will be able to power that up and have essentially checkmate set up. Or even a Charmander, right? Because the only way they deal with Charizard EX is through Roaring Moon. So if I end up benching a Charmander with an energy, that's good enough, right? That is actually good enough. I have the 30 damage. And that would also be game on board, which is what you want to do. You want to have game on board so that no matter what, your opponent can't really do anything in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, so we'll see. We shall see. We're gonna see the Comfey happen right here. Hasn't played the Mirage Gate yet. No Darkness Energy in the discard pile. Now there is one. So I'm guessing we're gonna see Super Rod into Mirage Gate, power up. And that is, I believe, the second Mirage Gate. There's one in the Lost Zone. There's two in the discard pile, so they're gonna need their last Mirage Gate, their last Nest Ball, at least one or two switching cards. They go flower selecting, so maybe this is a mistake. If they don't have the Mirage Gate, this is 100% a mistake because of the energies they just put back. They bench Manaphy. We might also see a Roxanne here, just trying to find the resource. But that was poorly done. Yeah, that was, I think... Well, I don't know. Yeah, no, that was poorly done. They needed to do... like that switch card. They had the switch cards, right? They needed to flower select before playing the Super Rod. As soon as they played the Super Rod, I assumed they had the Mirage Gate. Clearly they didn't. Clearly they whiffed again. Now I don't have KO. Oh no, they did get it. But do they have two energies in their deck? I hope they do, right? They're okay, they do. Alright. So they're down to very few cards. It's all gonna come down to this. If my opponent had placed 5 damage counters on the bench Charizard EX instead of on the Rotom, then the Crisis Punch could have actually been my opponent's saving grace. Of the Roxanne, I find the Rotom again, but I do find a Nest Ball, which could be good to grab a silly Charmander. I also find Bidoof, which I don't think I mind having. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. Alright, so I just need a fire energy or something along those lines. And my opponent needs so much to deal with Charizard EX, and they still don't win the game, even if they can do that. So, of the price, I find 2 useless cards, however, Super Rod and Jirachi. So it comes down to this. Does my opponent have enough resources to do Roaring Moon again? Because I've said they're down 1 Super Rod, 1 Nest Ball here, 4 energies in the Lost Zone as well, and they're down 2 Mirage Gates, 2 Super Rods, and 2 Nest Balls right here, along with 3 switch cards. How many switches? 1 switch, so 4 switch cards, 2 rescue boards, 1 switch, and they have the color, so they have their whole deck. That means they might be able to. They might also deck themselves out. Prizes could be a factor at this point in time. My less than ideal draw was definitely a factor as well. Uh-oh. So if they have double Super Rod and double Mirage Gate, they might have it along with the Nest Ball. We'll see. We'll see. They need a lot. They definitely need a lot. But best case scenario is they go Super Rod, Roaring Moon, 2 energies, Super Rod, probably 3 energies. And then they go Nest Ball, their last Nest Ball, assuming they play 4, into Roaring Moon. Mirage Gate number 1, attach 2 to Roaring Moon. Mirage Gate number 2, attach 1 to Comfey, attach 1 to Roaring Moon. Gouging, Frenzied Gouging, Knockout. And that's it. Yeah. I do have a few live top decks. I have... Ooh, okay, so they go Counter Catcher. That immediately tells me they don't have it, right? I do have live top decks. I have 4 Arven, 3 Ultra Ball. Maybe the Arven's not a live out, especially if the Bidoof goes down. But yeah, alright. That was close because of my, I was able to set up Charizard and that was it, right? So it was definitely close in that regard, but if I had even one more fire energy to attach to a Charmander, a backup Charmander, the Radiant Charizard, whatever it was, one of those, and I would have been completely fine, right? So close, but the 330 HP of Charizard EX is certainly a big issue for Lost Box, and I think they need a more decisive answer than just trying to Roaring Moon every once in a while against them. Otherwise, you just run out of resources to deal with those humongous HPs. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed this gameplay of Reklev's undefeated European International Champion deck. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.